Dorothy lived on a farm in Kansas with her aunt and uncle and her little dog Toto. One day, a terrible tornado came and picked up the house. The terrible wind spun the house around and around and around. Dorothy was hit in the head with a piece of wood and fell to the floor as the house continued to spin around. When Dorothy awoke, the house had finally stopped spinning. She cautiously opened the door. This doesn't look like Kansas. She noticed a crowd of happy people who cried, "Thank you for saving us from the Wicked Witch of the East." And there, sticking out from under the house, were 2 feet wearing red shoes. Dorothy's house had landed on the Wicked Witch. "Oh dear," said Dorothy. Just then, Glinda, the Good Witch, appeared and offered to help Dorothy get home with the help of the Wizard of Oz. Take the magic red shoes from the Wicked Witch's feet to the Wizard of Oz, and he will help you. Just follow the yellow brick road to Oz, the Emerald City, said Glinda the Good Witch. Just then, the Wicked Witch of the East sister appeared. She was the Wicked Witch of the West. "I want those red shoes," she hissed. Dorothy hurried away with her dog Toto down the yellow brick road to the Emerald City of Oz. She met a scarecrow who needed a brain. "Come with me, and the wizard can help you too," said Dorothy. They all set off down the yellow brick road. Soon they met a Tin Man who needed a heart. He joined them on their way to see the wizard. Later, a lion leapt from the forest. Toto barked loudly, and the lion began to cry. "I am supposed to be the king of the animals, but I have no courage," the lion said. "The wizard can help you," said Dorothy.
Oh.
And the lion joined all of them on their journey to see the wizard. Soon they saw the Emerald City in the distance. They met the Wizard of Oz, and he asked them to bring the Wicked Witch of the West's broomstick. We have to do it, they all agreed, or they would not get the help they needed. The Wicked Witch could see through her magic crystal ball that Dorothy and her friends were coming to get her. The witch sent out her magic monkeys, who fought off the lion, the scarecrow, and the Tin Man. The monkeys brought Dorothy and Toto to the witch. The witch locked up Dorothy and took the red shoes. Toto snuck away to get their friends to help rescue Dorothy from the Wicked Witch. Dorothy's friends, the scarecrow, the lion, and the Tin Man, crept into the castle and freed Dorothy. When the witch saw them, she shot sparks at the scarecrow, who burst into flames. Dorothy grabbed a bucket full of water and threw it on her scarecrow friend to save him. She also managed to soak the Wicked Witch. When the water hit the witch, she started to melt away. "I'm melting! I'm melting!" And soon, the Wicked Witch was just a giant puddle. Dorothy and her friends grabbed the witch's broomstick and headed back to the Wizard of Oz. When they arrived, the wizard admitted to them that he was just a regular man and he was no wizard. But he did have some things that would help them. He gave the scarecrow a diploma, the Tin Man a clockwork heart, and the lion a medal for bravery.
Oh.
"But how can I get home to Kansas?" asked Dorothy. Just then the Good Witch appeared and said, "Don't worry, you helped your friends and I will help you. Just click those red shoes together and say, 'There's no place like home,' and you'll see." So Dorothy said goodbye to her friends and picked up Toto and clicked her heels together 3 times, while saying, "There's no place like home." Magically, she was home with her aunt and uncle in Kansas. What an adventure, thought Dorothy. There really is no place like home, she said, as she hugged her aunt and uncle and her little dog Toto. The end. Long ago in a small village, a woodcarver named Geppetto made a wooden puppet. It looked so much like a real boy that Geppetto gave it a name, Pinocchio. The old man was so happy, he showed the puppet to his cat Figaro and his goldfish Cleo. As Geppetto showed his puppet to his dear pets, a small cricket named Jiminy Cricket snuck into Geppetto's house to have a warm night's sleep. Jiminy Cricket watched as Geppetto set the puppet down and gazed out the window at the stars. "Look at that! The wishing star!" Geppetto cried. Geppetto wished Pinocchio was a real boy. Soon it was bedtime, and Geppetto, Figaro, Cleo, and Jiminy Cricket all fell asleep. Before long, a beautiful light filled the workshop and woke up Jiminy Cricket. It was the Blue Fairy. She had heard Geppetto's wish and was there to make Pinocchio a real boy. She touched the puppet with her magic wand, and Pinocchio came to life. But Pinocchio had to prove he was brave, truthful, and unselfish to become a real boy. The Blue Fairy knew Pinocchio would need help, so she made Jiminy Cricket his helper, so he would help him to choose between right and wrong, and prove himself. Geppetto was delighted with Pinocchio, and he sent him off to school like a good parent. On the way to school, Pinocchio met a sly fox, who said Pinocchio could make a lot of money and didn't have to go to school. Jiminy Cricket didn't trust the sly fox. The sly fox said he could spend all of his time having fun in the theater instead of studying at school. Pinocchio said, "Okay!" and off he went with the sly fox to the theater owner. That night, the theater owner put Pinocchio on stage. He was a big hit as he sang and danced for the crowd. The crowd threw money on the stage. Jiminy Cricket, who was in the crowd, worried. After the show, the theater owner locked Pinocchio up and said, "You will live here and make me lots of money." Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket wondered how he could escape. Luckily, the Blue Fairy arrived. She asked Pinocchio why he missed school. He lied. She asked him more questions, and each time he told a lie, his nose grew longer and longer. The Blue Fairy reminded him to tell the truth if he wanted to be a real boy. Pinocchio promised he would tell the truth. She fixed his nose and set him free. The next day, Pinocchio met the sly fox again. The sly fox convinced Pinocchio to not go to school, but instead play and have fun all day. Pinocchio followed the fox, not returning home after regular school time. Geppetto was worried and went to look for Pinocchio. Geppetto sailed his boat to search for Pinocchio, and he was swallowed up by a huge whale. When Pinocchio returned home from playing all day, he found this out, and he knew he must save Geppetto. Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket found the huge whale, and they teased him with the fish. The whale grabbed the fish, the pole, Pinocchio, and Jiminy Cricket, and they were all swallowed into his belly. They found Geppetto in the whale's belly too. They must find a way to escape from the whale. They decided they would make the whale sneeze, and they would all escape when the whale opened his mouth. It worked, but when the whale saw them in the water, he thrashed around, knocking everyone about. Pinocchio had to grab Geppetto to save him. After a while, the water settled down and Geppetto and Jiminy Cricket awoke on the beach. they found Pinocchio lying lifeless on the rocks. Geppetto was heartbroken, and he carried his son home in his arms, convinced he had lost Pinocchio forever. Back in the workshop, Geppetto and Jiminy Cricket cried, and then all of a sudden, the blue fairy appeared. She touched her wand on Pinocchio and said, "Awake!" Pinocchio awoke, and the blue fairy said, "By saving Geppetto, you have proven yourself to be brave, truthful, and unselfish." "I am a real boy!" shouted Pinocchio. Pinocchio, Geppetto, Jiminy Cricket, and all the pets celebrated and danced as Geppetto's wish had come true. Pinocchio was a real boy. One day, the infant son of research scientists who were working in the jungle wandered off when they were not looking. The small baby boy was found by Bagheera, the very nice Black Panther. Bagheera thought the baby would be safer with the wolves and their baby cubs. Bagheera left the baby for the mother wolf to find. The mother wolf named the boy Mowgli, and they agreed to raise the boy with her wolf cubs. Mother wolf always worried about Shere Khan, the great tiger, coming to take the child away from them. Bagheera taught Mowgli the rules of the jungle and everything he needed to know about all the animals. Bagheera was always there to protect him. The wolves told Bagheera he must take Mowgli back to the human village, where he would be safe from Shere Khan. Bagheera agreed to take Mowgli to the human village. But when he tried, Mowgli got very upset and said he wanted to stay in the jungle with all his animal friends. Mowgli ran off deep into the jungle, where he met a nice new jungle bear friend named Baloo. Baloo and Mowgli played and had a great time. They met some monkeys and their king, who wanted to know how to make fire. Bagheera caught up with Baloo and Mowgli and said they had to get Mowgli to the village. But Mowgli ran away again. He wanted to stay in the jungle. Bagheera and Baloo searched for Mowgli. But the fierce tiger Shere Khan had found Mowgli first. Mowgli, who had grown up around animals his whole life, was not the least bit afraid of Shere Khan, the great tiger. This made Shere Khan very angry. Shere Khan bared his great fangs and let out a giant tiger roar and leapt towards Mowgli. Just then, Bagheera and Baloo arrived. Baloo the bear grabbed the great tiger by the tail and then threw him to the ground with a thud. Baloo had gotten there just in time to save Mowgli. Shere Khan lashed about trying to reach Baloo, but Baloo hung on tight to his tail. Shere Khan tried to shake Baloo loose and cracked his strong tail like a whip. Suddenly, a big storm rose up, and a huge lightning bolt hit a big tree and started a fire. Mowgli knew right away how to help Baloo with the fight against Shere Khan. Shere Khan was very afraid of fire. Mowgli took a branch that was on fire and he ran towards the great tiger. Shere Khan was so afraid of the fire in Mowgli's hand that he ran away deep into the jungle. Bagheera and Baloo cheered. They both knew they would never see Shere Khan around their jungle parts again. Mowgli, Bagheera, and Baloo promised they would never be parted by anything again. They would always be best friends, no matter what. Just then, at the edge of the jungle river, Mowgli saw something he had never seen before. It was a beautiful girl. The beautiful girl was getting water just outside the man's village edge by the river. Bagheera and Baloo were sad, but only for a few moments, as they knew Mowgli had to leave to go to the man village with the girl. They both knew it was the right thing for Mowgli to do. They both saw Mowgli smile as he helped the girl with her water jugs at the river's edge. Then Mowgli waved as he headed towards the man village with the girl. Mowgli's friends knew it was where Mowgli really belonged. They would always be friends no matter where they all lived. Bagheera and Baloo knew they had done the right thing by helping Mowgli find his way safely to his new home, and they all lived happily ever after. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived in a village by a forest. Whenever she went out, she wore a red hooded cape. Everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother baked some cakes, and she asked Little Red Riding Hood to take them to her grandmother, who lived in the forest. Little Red Riding Hood was very excited and happy to go visit her grandmother. Her mother packed up the cakes in a basket and reminded Little Red Riding Hood to not waste time and go straight to her grandmother's house and to not talk to strangers. Along the path to her grandmother's house, there were flowers, ponds, and woodland animals along the way. And Little Red Riding Hood took her time and enjoyed them all. Then, all of a sudden, a wolf was beside her, asking, "Well, Little Red Riding Hood, what are you doing here?" She told him she was on her way to visit her grandmother's house in the forest. The wolf wanted to gobble up Little Red Riding Hood, but he noticed a woodcutter coming along. So the wolf thought of a plan. "Well, where does your grandmother live?" the wolf asked. Little Red Riding Hood answered, "She lives over the bridge and past the lake," she told the wolf. "Let's play a game and race to your grandmother's house to see who can get there first," said the wolf. "Okay," said Little Red Riding Hood as she ran towards her grandmother's house as fast as she could. The wolf knew a secret path that was far quicker and ran towards her grandmother's house to beat Little Red Riding Hood in the race. The wolf knocked on the grandmother's door, and she asked, "Is that you, Little Red Riding Hood?" The wolf was able to disguise his voice very well, and he replied, "Yes, grandmother, it is me." "Oh, come in, my dear Little Red Riding Hood," said grandmother. To her surprise, the big bad wolf ran in and gobbled her up. The wolf then dressed up to disguise himself as the grandmother. He put on her nightcoat and nightcap and jumped in her bed. Very soon after, Little Red Riding Hood knocked on the door. The wolf disguised his voice again and asked, "Who is it?" "It's me," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Oh, do come in, dear," crackled the wolf. When Little Red Riding Hood saw her grandmother, she barely recognized her and thought her voice sounded strange. As Little Red Riding Hood got closer, she noticed her grandmother's ears were so big and asked, "Grandmother, what big ears you have." "All the better to hear you with, my dear," croaked the wolf. "But, grandmother, what big eyes you have." "All the better to see you with, my sweet girl," replied her grandmother, who was really the wolf. "But grandmother, what big teeth you have," said Little Red Riding Hood, feeling very scared. "All the better to eat you with," roared the wolf as he leapt from the bed towards Little Red Riding Hood. She ran towards the door as fast as she could. And now she could fully see that it was not her grandmother, but the big bad wolf. As she was trying to escape, she yelled, "Help!" in her loudest voice. "Help!" Cutter, who was working in the forest, heard Little Red Riding Hood's cries for help and ran to help her. He caught the big bad wolf and shook him so hard that grandmother came out all in one piece. Little Red Riding Hood hugged her grandmother and apologized for talking to strangers and wasting time. Her grandmother said, "Don't worry, dear. You have learned some important lessons. Now why don't we enjoy those delicious cakes you brought me?" The woodcutter took the big bad wolf deep into the forest, so he could never bother Little Red Riding Hood or her family ever again. The end.